Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wahyuni, and I'm here to fulfill my midterm project of grammar. And this is part one. I will present it about Elizabethan era. Elizabethan theater, often known as English Renaissance theater, is the term used to describe the performance play generally developed under Elizabeth I of England, 1558 to 1603, and presented under her first successors. The Elizabethan theater saw the first professional performers who were part of touring troupes and presented plays in diverse with amusing religious themes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wahyuni, and I'm here to fulfill my midterm project. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wahyuni. I'm from Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wahyuni, and I'm here to fulfill my midterm project of grammar. And this is part one. I will present it about Elizabethan theater era. Elizabethan theater, often known as English Renaissance theater, is the term used to describe the performance play genre that developed under Elizabeth I of England, 1558 to 1603, and persisted under her Stuart successors. The Elizabethan theater saw the first professional performers who were part of touring troupes and presented plays in blank verse with amusing religious themes. Although theater has existed since the time of the ancient Greeks, Elizabethan England improved upon it. Morality and mystery plays had been performed in medieval England, and cities regularly sponsored performances by musicians, acrobats, and jesters. These public artists were turned into professional entertainers during the Elizabethan era, when the Queen and her customer backed the first troops. Due in part to the impact of the English Reformation, plays shifted their focus from religious celebration to secular topics. Elizabeth, who understood the power of theater to shape public opinion, outlawed unauthorized performance in 1559 and eventually limited the nobility's ability to support playing troupes, forcing them to get licenses by 1574. Elizabeth supported painters, musicians, and theater because she believed that having these forms of art at her residence gave the impression that she was a well-educated and successful ruler. This assistance was referred to as patronage. London, the metropolis and the location of the royal court, was at the epicenter of the cultural expansion. Recognizing that the city's residents enjoyed all types of spectacle, the theater gained popularity among people from all walks of life because of its high drama, music, and delicate costumes. The first plays of this era were not performed in permanent theaters. There were none at the time. Instead, shows were put on in the courtyards of inns by traveling troupes of actors. A permanent theater, the Red Lion, opened in 1567. It was on the outskirts of the city of London and only hosted troupes of actors as they were passing through. Unfortunately, it did not succeed due to its remote location. It took until 1576 and the establishment of the theater in Shoreditch for the building boom to blossom. The theater would host a company of actors on a more permanent basis. As they performed different shows in repertory in the same location, other theaters soon followed, such as the Rose, the Swan, the Fortune, the Red Bull, and most famously the Globe. All were located outside the city limits due to laws that restricted congregations and establishments like theaters in order to prevent the spread of the plague. The main features of an Elizabethan theater are: the first is the theater was open and plays had to be performed in daylight. A flag would be flown from the top of the theater to show a play was going to be performed. People sat around the stage in galleries. The cheapest place was in front of the stage where ordinary people stood. They were known as groundings. There was very little scenery. A character will tell the audience where the scene was set. Women's parts were played by boys. Long pieces gave actors a chance to change their clothes. There was generally plenty of violence in the place. The door audiences loved it. The genres and themes of Elizabethan era. Elizabethan drama was diverse, encompassing a wide range of genres, including tragedies, comedies, histories, and pastoral plays. The era's most celebrated playwright, William Shakespeare, crafted masterpieces that explored the complexities of human nature, politics, and love. Hamlet, Othello, and Macbeth exemplify the profound tragedies of their time, while comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night provided light-hearted entertainment. The themes of Elizabethan plays often reflected the social values and concern of this era. Political intrigue, the supernatural, and the clash between order and chaos were recurring motifs. Theatrical performances become a mirror of Elizabethan England, offering a lens through which the audience could contemplate their own lives and the world around them. The genres in Elizabethan theater. The first is tragedy. The first, the first is tragedy, the second is comedy, and then history, and then romance. Tragedy, characteristic by focus on intense emotional conflicts, usually involving noble characters facing downfall due to fate or personal flaws. Examples is Shakespeare's Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and King Lear. Popular playwrights at the time is William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. The purpose of tragedies is to explore the dark aspect of human nature, fate, and morality. They often ended in death or disaster, provoking reflection on power, ambition, and the limits of human control. The second genre is comedy. It characterized by light-hearted and often humorous comedies, frequently featured mistaken identities, love triangles, and social satire. The example is Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night, and Much Ado About Nothing. The purpose of comedies is provided entertainment while also critiquing societal norms, class structures, and human folly. These plays typically ended happily, often with weddings or reconciliations. The third genre is history. The characteristics is these plays dramatize historical events, especially related to England's royal past and the actions of former kings and queens. The examples are Shakespeare's Henry V, Richard III, and Henry IV. The purpose of history plays help foster a sense of nationalism and allow audiences to reflect on leadership's power and England's heritage. They often presented monarchs as complex characters, revealing the burdens of rule. And the last genre is romance. The characteristic is romance plays combine elements of tragedy and comedy with an emphasis on adventure, fantastical elements, and themes of redemption and forgiveness. The example is Shakespeare's Tempest and Pericles. The purpose of these plays offer hope and renewal, often exploring the resilience of love and the power of forgiveness. They presented characters undergoing trials that ultimately lead to positive resolutions. And these are the common themes in Elizabethan theater. There are love and desire, power and ambition, faith versus free will, revenge, social class and identity, conflict between the individual and society, nationalism, and patriotism. For love and desire, it explored in comedies, tragedies, and romances. Love was depicted in its many forms: romantic, unrequited, familial, and even forbidden. The examples of these themes are Romeo and Juliet examines the intensity of young love set against family conflict and the power and ambition. The themes of power, authority, and ambition were central to tragedies and histories, reflecting the political tensions and hierarchy of Elizabethan society. The example of this is Macbeth delves into the corrupting influence of unchecked ambition and the consequences of seizing power through immoral acts. And Fate versus Free Will, characters often grapple with destiny versus their own choices, reflecting a tension between human agency and supernatural forces. The example is Hamlet questions fate, choice, and destiny as Hamlet struggles with avenging his father's death. And for revenge plots were common, especially in tragedies, where characters pursued justice or retribution, leading to moral questions and often tragic outcomes. The examples is Hamlet and Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, both explore the complexities and destructiveness of seeking vengeance. Social class and identity. Many comedies and tragedies question the role of social class, with characters often disguising their identities, switching roles, or changing class boundaries. The examples in Twelfth Night, characters use disguise and mistaken identity to explore themes of love and social status. And conflict between the individual and society. Plays often explore the struggle between personal desires and societal expectation, highlighting tensions in social norms and moral values. The example is Othello addresses racial and societal pressures that affect personal relationships and ambitions. The last is nationalism and patriotism. History plays, in particular, foster a sense of English pride and reflected on the ideals of good leadership and patriotism. The examples can be seen in Henry V celebrates England's past and the qualities of a just and heroic ruler. Elizabethan theater technique. The first is soliloquy. Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be is literature's most famous soliloquy. This popular Elizabethan theater convention is a literary or dramatic technique in which a single character talks a lot inner thoughts to him or himself, but not within earshot of another character. Typically, a soliloquy is lengthy with a dramatic tone. The second is aside. The aside existed in Shakespeare's times, but happily continued into the melodramas of the 19th century many years later. An aside is a convention that usually involves one character addressing the audience on the side, offering them valuable information in relation to the plot or characters that only the audience is privy to. The audience now feels empowered, knowing more about the events on stage than most of the characters do. The third is boy performing female roles. Acting in Elizabethan theater was frowned upon by men in society as a profession unsuitable for women, as it was rough and rowdy instead of gentle. As a result, women were not legally permitted to act on the English stage until King Charles II was crowned in the year 1660, even though women were already acting in various European countries in commedia dell'arte plays for some years. Shakespeare and his contemporaries therefore had no choice but to cast young boys in the roles of women, while the men played all the male roles on stage. The fourth is mass. Existing prior to Elizabethan theater and also outliving it, the mass was normally performed indoors at the king or queen's court. Spoken in verse, a mass involved beautiful costumes and an intellectual element appropriate for the most educated upper class. Masques were allegorical stories about an event or person involving singing, acting, and dancing. Characters were elaborate masks to hide their faces. The, the fifth is eavesdropping. Eavesdropping was a dramatic technique that sat neatly between a soliloquy and an aside. And an aside. Certain characters would strategically overhear others on stage, informing both themselves and the audience of the details, while the characters being overheard had no idea what was happening. This convention opened up opportunities for the playwright in the evolving plot. The sixth is presentational acting style. It is generally agreed by scholars Elizabethan acting was largely presentational in style. Plays were more overtly a performance with clues that the actors were aware of the presence of an audience instead of completely ignoring them as part of their art. Movements and gesture were more stylish and dramatic than one might ordinarily expect in a modern naturalistic or realistic drama. Speech patterns were heightened for dramatic effect, and the use of conventions such as the aside, prologue, epilogue, and word tones directly connected pure characters to the audience watching. The aside, the prologue, the soliloquy, and the epilogue were all variations on the character's direct address to the audience when staged. The seventh is dialogue. Elizabethan theater, Elizabethan theater commonly consisted of dialogue that was poetic, dramatic, and heightened beyond that of the vernacular of the day. While often the lower class character's speech was somewhat colloquial, prose or upper class characters spoke stylish, rhythmic speech patterns. Shakespeare took great care in composing dialogue that was sometimes blank or unrhymed, but at others, but at other times rhyming or couplets, and often using five stressed syllables in a line of dialogue or iambic pentameter. The eighth is play within a play. This Elizabethan theater convention was a playwriting technique used by Shakespeare and others that involved the staging of a play inside the play itself. It was not a flimsy convention, but rather one that was used judiciously and with purpose. One of the most famous examples of this convention occurs in Hamlet when the title character is convinced his uncle Claudius murdered his father for the throne. So Hamlet organizes an out-of-town troupe of performers to attend one evening and perform a play before King Claudius that involves the same plot line as the events in the largest plays, Murder of a King, but in a different setting. Also, let Claudius know Hamlet is onto him. And the last one is stagecraft. Elizabethan theater relied on elaborate costumes but kept the stage itself simple. Sets were minimal, with a bare stage and just a few props. For instance, a single tree could represent a forest, and a throne could stand for a place. To create a sense of place, rich imagery-filled dialogue help audiences visualize the scene. Costumes, often colorful and detailed, indicate a character social status, since there were no stage lights. Plays were performed only during the day. And these are the popular examples of Elizabethan drama. The Elizabethan era, which spanned from 1558 to 1603, a period of tremendous creativity and artistic expression in England. The theater was one of the most important cultural institution of the time, and the Elizabethan theater style became synonymous with drama that was both entertaining and intellectually stimulating. These are the five popular examples of stage plays in Elizabethan theater style and examine the conventions they use. The first is Romeo and Juliet. Perhaps the most well-known play in Elizabethan theater style is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. This tragic love story follows the lives of two young lovers from pleading families, and its themes of love, passion, and family loyalty have made it a timeless classic. Some of the conventions used in Romeo and Juliet include use of iambic pentameter in dialogue, heavy use of soliloquies and asides, presence of a prologue and epilogue. And the second is Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. Dr. Faustus is a play by Christopher Marlowe that explored the consequences of making a deal with the devil. The titular character, a brilliant scholar, sells his soul to Lucifer in exchange for unlimited knowledge and power. Some of the conventions used in Dr. Faustus include use of a blank verse in dialogue, presence of a chorus that comments on the action, themes of sin, redemption, and damnation. The third is The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. It is a play by John Webster that tells the story of a widowed duchess who secretly marries her steward, much to the dismay of her brothers. The play explores themes of love, power, and revenge. Some of the conventions used in the Duchess of Malfi include use of blank verse in dialogue, presence of a chorus that comments on the action, and themes of violence and death. The fourth is The Alchemist by Ben Jonson. The Alchemist is a play by Ben Jonson that satirizes the greed and gullibility of society. The play follows the lives of a trio of con artists who convince their victims that they have the ability to turn base metals into gold. Some of the conventions used in The Alchemist include use of prose in dialogue, presence of comic characters and situations, and themes of deception and greed. And the last one is Volpone by Ben Jonson. It is another play by Ben Jonson that explores the themes of greed and deception. The play follows the life of Volpone, a wealthy Venetian who fakes a terminal illness in order to trick his greedy acquaintances into giving him gifts. Some of the conventions used in Volpone include use of prose in dialogue, presence of comic characters and situations, themes of greed and deception. In conclusion, the Elizabethan theater era was a pivotal time in the development of drama, shaping the way stories were told and experienced. With its diverse genres, tragedy, comedy, history, and romance, Elizabethan theater explored complex themes like love, power, ambition, and the conflict between fate and free will. This era not only entertained but also reflected societal concerns, questioned norms, and sparked a sense of national pride. The creativity and insight of playwrights like Shakespeare and Marlowe left an indelible mark on English culture, making Elizabethan theaters a timeless influence that continues to inspire and captivate audiences worldwide. And this is the part two of Project Drama, and I will playing the character of in Samuel Beckett's monologue. Birth was the death of him. Again, words are few, dying too. Birth was the death of him, ghastly grinning over their sins, up at the lid to come, in cradle and crib, at sock first fiasco, with the first daughters, from nanny to nanny and back, all the way, bended back and forth, so ghastly grinning on, from funeral to now, this night, 2.5 billion seconds, again, 2.5 billion seconds. Hard to believe so few, from funeral to funeral. Funerals of he all but sad of loved ones. 30,000 nights. Hard to believe so few. Born dead of night. Sun long sung behind the larches. New needles turning green. In the room dark raining. Till faint light from standard lamp. Winch unknown. None from window. No. Next to none. No such thing as none. Grabs the window and stares out. Stands there staring out. Stacks still staring out. Nothing stirring in that black face. Grabs back in the end to where the lamp is standing. Was standing. When last went out. Those matches in right hand pocket. Strikes one on his bathtub the way his father taught him. Takes off milk white glove and set it down match goes out. Strikes a second as before. Takes off chimney. Smoke clouded. Holds it in left hand. Match goes out. Strikes a third as before and sets it to wick. Puts back chimney. Match goes out. Puts back low. Turns wick low. Backs away to edge of light and turns to face east. Blank wall. So nightly. Up. Socks. Night gown. Window. Lamp. Backs away to edge of light and stands facing blank wall. Covered with pictures at once. Pictures of the all but sad of loved ones. Unframed, unglazed. Pinned to wall with wearing paints. All shapes and sizes. Down one after another. Gone. Torn to shreds and scattered. strewn all over the floor. Not at one sweep, no sudden feet off, no word, ripped from the wall and torn to shreds one by one. Over the years, years of night, nothing on the wall now but the pins. Not all. Some out with the wrench, some still pinning a shred. So stand there facing the blank wall, dying on. No more, no less. No, less. Less to die, ever less. Like light at nightfall. Stands there facing east. Blank pink pox surface once wet in shadow. Could once name them all. There was father, that grave void. Their mother, the other, they're together, smiling, wedding day. They're all three, that grey blood. They're alone, he alone, not known, forgotten, all gone so long, gone, ripped off and torn to shreds, scattered all over the floor, swept out of the way under the bed and left thousand shreds under the bed with dust and spiders. All the She all but sat loved ones, stand there facing the walls, staring beyond. Nothing there either. Nothing steering there either. Nothing steering anywhere. Nothing to be seen anywhere. Nothing to be heard anywhere. Room once full of sounds, faint sounds, winds unknown. We were in fainter as time wore on. Nights wore on. Numb now. No, no such thing as none. Weighing some nights, still slain against the pains of groping gentle on the place beneath. Even now, lamp smoking tall with tongue low. Strange, thin smoke is doing through an end globe. Low ceiling stained by night after night of this. Dark shapeless blood on surface elsewhere. White, once white, stands facing wall after the furious motion described. That is up at nightfall and into gown and socks. No, in them already. In them all day and night. Up at nightfall in gown and socks, and after a moment to get his bearing robes the window, fell light in room, unutterably faint, winds unknown, stands stock still staring out into black vast. Nothing there, nothing stirring, that he can see, hear, dwells just as if unable to move again, or no will left to move again, not enough will left to move again. Turns in the aim and grabs to where he knows the lamp is standing. Thinks he knows was last standing when last went out. Thank you so much.